Hey, welcome back everyone for tutorial number 3. In tutorial number 3, we're going to review job objectives. I'm going to show you guys how to create them, um, and sort of kind of how this particular feature works within Synapse. But before I do, I wanted to go back and jump into an employee's profile to show you how to build out a commission schedule, or at least show you how to document one, in the event that you wanted to do that for your employees. In tutorial number 2, we went through how to create employee profiles, and I kind of indicated what this additional compensation detail box was for. In my particular industry, commissions are something that's pretty common. So I would indicate in this box what the particular commission schedule or bonus schedule would look like for a particular employee. And so you can see here that in property and casualty, there's a commission structure in there. And then for financial services, there's a commission structure, and for bank and health as well. These are all insurance-related sales. And so this is kind of where you guys can customize commission schedules for particular employees so that they can kind of see where and how their commission schedule lays out any given day they want to log in. But for this particular tutorial, we're going to go back and I'm going to show you guys how to build out job objectives. Job objectives is just a fancy way of sort of saying that these are my goals. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is what my business is trying to achieve any given year, whether it's revenue or it's units that you're trying to sell, or marketing that you're trying to generate, online reviews you're trying to have your consumers fill out. You're basically indicating you're isolating particular goals one by one to determine what it is that you're trying to achieve any given year. That's all job objectives are. What makes them interesting, though, is that when you create a job objective for your particular business, you have to then hire and assign those job objectives to people, to your staff, to your team members, to your employees. They have to be responsible for achieving those goals. And so we create the job objectives holistically, the goals holistically for your agency or for your business. And then we assign those job objectives with particular goals, specific goals that to each individual employee in which they're responsible for achieving. And we're going to go through that. This is going to take a couple of tutorials for a lot of reasons. One, this is probably the most time-consuming aspect of this the setup process, is creating the job objectives. The good news is once you create them, they're in there forever. So next year when you're goal planning, you don't have to recreate them unless you have a new objective next year that you didn't have this year, or a new goal. But for the most part, if your goals stay pretty consistent, you'll never have to recreate them again. They'll be in there, and you'll just assign new goals each year, but they're essentially already created. So this is a one-time setup process that's going to take a little bit of time. But once it's done, it's done. So hopefully, but by now, you guys have built out your rosters. So you can see that in tutorial 2, I showed you guys how to create an employee profile. I went ahead and built out mine with 4 additional employees on top of myself. You can see that I'm here listed as the owner and a sales rep. In my particular business, when I had an insurance agency, I not only managed my team, but I also was responsible for certain sales objectives. Claudia here was one of my team members. She was a sales rep. Joe, marketing specialist. This is kind of a fictional character here because he didn't work for me when I was an agent, when I owned an agency. He's actually the director of marketing here at Synapse, but I'm putting him in here just for demonstration purposes. Katie is sales rep, and then Laura here, my customer service rep. So you should have your entire teams built out in here. They should have their employee profiles. They should be able to log in. They might not have logged in at this point, but if they should be built out in terms of their profiles. Okay, and so their profiles aren't complete yet because we have not assigned them job objectives, simply because we have not created them. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to create job objectives, or organizational goals, or whatever you want to call them, but it's going to be under the objectives tab here. So what you'll do is you just click on this, and this is the screen that you should be looking at right now. It should be pretty much a blank screen, but for the most part, it's pretty basic. So give you guys a quick tour of this screen. You'll be right here. This box is in the right hand corner. This is the box you'll click on to open a window to create a new objective. So we'll get to that here in a second. Once you have the objectives created, you could search for an objective utilizing this box right here. Pretty simple. You just type in the objective name. And so if you're an organization that's going to have 50 objectives, 50 goals, and you don't want to scroll for it, you just want to find it, you can just type it in there, and you'll be able to bring it up. These boxes right here just isolate the type of objectives that you've built. So since we're on that topic, I'll kind of dig into that a little bit. Synapse breaks your job objectives into 3 specific categories. Production, we're all familiar with that one. That one is something that we all try to achieve, no matter what organization you're from or you're with or you're in. Production is something that everyone's trying to achieve. In the insurance industry, it's you're trying to sell auto insurance policies, you're trying to sell homeowners insurance policies, you're trying to sell life policies, health policies, and so on and so on. And depending on what companies you're appointed with, sometimes there's bank objectives or securities objectives or whatnot. But nonetheless, production is about sales. It's about trying to generate an outcome. So we're all familiar with that. Activity is the second objective. This is less familiar to a lot of people. We tend to generate most of our goals around what outcome we're looking for, but something called the lead measure is something that's kind of started to generate a buzz over the last 5 to 6 years, which is really about what are you doing to try and generate sales? What are the day-to-day activities that you're trying to do to try and drive a sales objective or a production objective? In the insurance industry, it could be how many households you're quoting. Like, are you quoting at the volume of households that you need to be quoting to hit your sales objective? So if you have a 10% conversion rate and you're trying to bring on 3 households a week or 4 households a week, that you're going to need to quote 40 households that week in order to generate that production objective of 4 households. That being said, the activity objective is then quoting, right? And so we're going to show you guys how to create activity objectives, production objectives. The last objective I'm going to mention is an objective that or a goal that is not something that is seen very commonly in small and mid-sized businesses, which is the quality objective. It's not a production objective, and it's not a marketing objective or an activity objective. It's really it's an objective that I'm really not going to spend a lot of time on in this particular tutorial, because it is a very specific type of tracking system that we're going to create within the application. It's highly specialized, and it's going to take some time to try and set these up. But what a quality objective is essentially you determining whether or not your employees or your team members are executing a process the way that you had intended. So if you have a specific way that you want your customers being engaged by your team members, whether it's, hey, they're calling in for an auto insurance quote, or they came in for a life insurance presentation or a sale, and you've trained your team a very specific way to execute these things, the quality objective allows you to create a measurable goal for the experience that your customers are getting or your prospects are getting. And it's basically an audit that allows you to measure whether or not your team is executing or is delivering the customer expectation the way you had intended. And so in this particular tutorial, we are not going to cover that. I'm going to cover that in a few other tutorials because it is complex, but highly valuable. This is the bread and butter of Synapse, is the quality objective tracking. We believe that it's not just a numbers game. It's not simply how much of something you're doing. It's often about how well you're doing it. And the quality objective and the audit tracking model really allows you to determine whether or not your team is executing at a high level. And so we're going to get into that a little bit later. But for now, what we want to do is we want to show you guys how to create a job objective. And again, when you click on this box right here, it's going to bring up a window. So go ahead and do that. And we're going to get really basic with this. When I say basic, I just mean that we're going to create very common job objectives that are seen every day in insurance agencies across the country. So a very common job objective or a goal is raw new auto policies. So this is just something, we're not applying a measure to this here, or we're not applying a value to this yet. We're just saying to the application, to Synapse here, that we intend to have a goal around how many raw new auto policies that we produce in 2019 or whatever year you're in. But creating this in 2019, so I'm going to reference that year quite a bit. So raw new auto policies, that's an objective I'm going to measure. That is a goal I have. That's something I'm pursuing. So I'm naming it that. The next section here where it says objective category, the application is asking you whether this is a production objective, an activity objective, or a quality objective. This is a production objective. We're after a sale, right? We're going to count how many units we're after with raw new auto. So this is production. The application down here is also asking you whether this is a numeric objective, a currency objective, or a percentage objective. All this means is that are you counting the number of units that you're selling, or are you counting the amount of money that you're producing as a result of this goal? And in this case, it is numeric. We're going to be counting how many raw new auto policies we're selling. We're going to have a goal around that. Let's just say for right now, the goal is 400 for the year. So since we're counting units, we're going to leave it as a numeric count. But if, let's say, we were tracking something like life premium sales, then yeah, we would code it as currency, because we're going to be tracking dollars and cents versus units. So if it's units, it's numeric. If it's currency or money, or if it's money, it's currency. And percentage is an objective that you can only code if quality is the objective category that's selected. So we'll go over that later. But for right now, with production and activity, the only ones you need to worry about are numeric and currency. And then in the objectives detail tab here, all you'll put in here are things that you want your staff knowing about this objective. For me, for raw new auto policies, I would put something along the lines of, it's going to be important in 2019 that we achieve 400 raw new auto policy sales in order to maintain our growth trajectory of 15%, blah, blah, blah. I would just put in there something that I want my team to know about why this is an objective, why it's important to our business that we achieve on it. And so for now, I'm just going to put test, so that I just have something in it. But when I come back in the next tutorial, all the objectives will be built out, and I'll have all these objective notes in there as well. So when I had objectives, it should populate. There it is. And so you can, if you felt like you made a mistake, you can go in and you can edit it. You can change the objective details in there and whatnot. If you don't want the objective in there anymore, you can archive it, which it'll take it out of this section. But there you have it. There's a goal that you've indicated to the application that you're going to be measuring. You have not applied a value to it yet. You won't apply a value to it until you assign it to a team member or to an employee. And I'll show you guys how to do that in one of the future tutorials. I'm going to create one more objective here, just so that you guys can see again. So we'll create another one. This time we'll do a activity objective. We'll say households quoted. And so this is basically me telling the application that I'm going to be measuring how many household quotes we complete in a year. And keep in mind that these are all annual objectives, things that I'm going to be tracking throughout the year. But So households quoted, this is something I'm going to be looking at. This is an activity objective. It's not a sale, right? I'm not measuring whether a sale took place. I'm measuring whether or not we engaged with the customer and provided an opportunity to try and earn the business. So it's not a sale, it's an activity objective. But again, it's a numeric objective because we're not tracking currency, we're tracking units, how many households were quoted. And then again, I'll put test in here, but this would also be an area where you put in why it's important that we reach a household quote volume objective. So that's again for your team to see why this is an important objective. So you add it. And I'll go ahead and add one more just so that we can add a currency objective. So life premium sales. So this would be a production objective because we're after a sale here. This is closing business, but this is not a numeric objective. We're looking at premium. We're looking at how much dollars we've produced in life insurance premium in 2019. So we're going to code this as currency. We're going to be measuring this as dollars and cents. And then again, test, add the objective. So there's 3 objectives that we've created so far. So hopefully what you've taken away from this tutorial is that if you're going to measure it, if it's important to if it's a goal that you have as a business, you should create an objective for it. You need to create an objective for it. And it needs to be measurable, and we will apply values to these at some point when we're assigning them to employees or team members. So go ahead and create the rest of your objectives. I'm going to go ahead and create the rest of mine so that you'll see the complete list the next time you log on, or the next time when you click on tutorial number 4, you'll see that I have completed the list of both production and activity objectives. You will not see that I've added quality objectives yet. I will have a separate tutorial for that. And in the next tutorial, we're going to show you how to assign job objectives to team members. All right, guys, thank you.